So, in the spirit of women's suffrage and following that video, we're going to talk a little bit about our own history here in La Crosse. During this historic year, our 100-year anniversary of the League of Women Voters in the La Crosse area, should I start over? During this historic year of the 100-year anniversary of the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area, it seems fitting that we celebrate by taking you back to the very first meeting where our league was created on August 22nd, 1924. We are fortunate to have the actual meeting minutes from that meeting, which we will present tonight. The date of our first meeting was only 4 years after the 19th Amendment was ratified and 4 years after the League of Women Voters was formed. The 1924 presidential election will be just the second time that women were allowed to vote. And the candidates that year were Republican Calvin Coolidge, Democrat John Davis, and third-party candidate Robert LaFollette from Wisconsin. I'm sure that created a lot of local interest. So, imagine yourselves at the home of Alice Hickson. The setting is the beautiful home you might recognize at 1431 King Street. Alice moved from Fond du Lac to the La Crosse area to teach English and dramatics at the high school around about 1916. In 1919, she married Frank Hickson, who was a widower. She then became very active in community groups such as the YMCA, the La Crosse Hospital Association, and the AAUW. You can see why she was a perfect one to initiate the League of Women Voters in our area. Later, she also started a league at Lake Forest, Illinois, and became treasurer of the National League. Alice's part tonight will be read by Terry Benson. The special guest at this meeting was the Wisconsin State League president, Mrs. Harry Thomas, read by Jean Hammonds. Dora Hirschberger will be read by Nola Larson, and Dora served as secretary. She was a member of the Hersheimer family who started the La Crosse Plow Company, which morphed into making tractors and was eventually sold to Alice Chalmers. These are our characters, along with other influential women in La Crosse, such as Mrs. A.J. Robarge, Mrs. Harry Spence, and Mrs. O.J. Oyen. Those three women are portrayed by Debbie Hansen, Anita Evans, and Barb Roberts. And you all are the meeting attendees. So please join the meeting and watch for your cues so you can be part of the creation of the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area. I turn it over now to Mrs. Alice Hickson.
Thank you all for attending this meeting today to discuss forming a chapter of the League of Women Voters. I firmly believe that it is the duty of every woman to vote and keep herself informed on public affairs. We welcome our special guest, Mrs. Harry Thomas, the state president of the Wisconsin League of Women Voters. Mrs. Thomas, we hope you had a pleasant trip from Sheboygan and look forward to your comments.
Thank you, Mrs. Hickson. I'm very happy to be here and share this information with you. Thank you all for attending. The object of the League is to get out the women's vote, doing educational work along public lines. The League stands for education and doing educational work. It stands for citizenship, for improved legislation, for law enforcement, and for efficiency in government. The League is not a women's party. It is not a political party. It urges members to join the parties of their choice. The League works through the study of government and politics, through investigation, through education, and in cooperation with other organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion that a local chapter be formed in La Crosse? I call on Mrs. O.J. Oyen.
I move that we form a local chapter of the League of Women Voters.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Whoops. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Is there a motion that, after reading the League State Constitution, the chair should appoint a committee to draft a local constitution and present it at the next meeting? I call on Mrs. Harry Spence.
I so move.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I appoint Mrs. Odin Oyen, Mrs. Andrew Lees, and Miss Mary Devine to this committee. Our next order of business is to draw up a slate of officers. Is there a motion to do so? I call on Mrs. A.J. Robarge.
I move that the chair appoint a committee to present a slate of officers at our next meeting.
Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I appoint Mrs. Lila Finch, Miss Mashek, and Miss Eleanor Funk. Now we need to find a place for our next meeting. Perhaps the courthouse or the city hall? Miss Hirschheimer, will you and Mrs. Hauer-Hart determine a location and put a notice in the paper?
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you. I also request all of you to come prepared to give a 2 to 3 minute talk and bring at least 3 or more other people with you to the next meeting.
I move that we give Mrs. Thomas and Mrs. a rousing vote of thanks for starting this chapter, local chapter of the League of Women Voters.
The second meeting was held only 3 days later in the courthouse. The elected officers secured the courthouse as a permanent meeting place, started working on the La Crosse League Constitution. They also formed a committee of 10 to work during the next 10 days to canvass the city to get out the vote. These women were obviously movers and shakers, and that tradition continues today. Thank you for attending.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you, lady. Rhonda wrote the script, and she directed, and she produced this, along with the help of Alice Hickson and all of her friends. So thank you very much. This is really entertaining. Now, you witnessed the beginnings of the league. So, you think you know the league? We're going to see. On the tables, we're going to do a little trivia about the first 100 years of the league. And you will have an answer sheet. You also each have a pen that is from Vote 411, which is something that we sponsor, that if you need any help at all about finding where you need to vote or what district you're in or who the candidates are or all of that, call Vote 411. All right, so you can do this either as an individual, or you can do it as a small group, or you can do it as an entire table. So however you want to do it. But put everybody's names, if you're doing it as a group, put everybody's names on your sheet of paper and designated one person to do the writing. All right, so I will read a question. And right away, I will give you time to answer. Then I will give you the answer. That's smart. And you get 1 point for each correct answer that you give. Now, unless I tell you that it's different, because there's a couple that's maybe 2 points. There's also some bonus questions that you can get extra points if you know a little more information about that particular question. The winning person or persons will receive a prize and also our everlasting esteem for knowing so much about the league. Okay, any questions? Okay. Oh, and don't blurt out the answers, okay? Just kind of talk quietly amongst yourselves. All right. Trivia from the last 100 years. First question. Do I point this way? Nope. Okay. Leagues from what other state joined our league in first developing the Upper Mississippi River Region ILO? So it's one other state. And then there's a bonus on this one. What longtime and present member was a founding leader in that ILO? Okay, so the Mississippi River ILO is a group of states that are working together to educate people about the need to keep our rivers clean and safe. It's only one other, this is the very beginning. Now there's a lot of states that have joined in, but this is the very beginning. Okay? An ILO interleague organization. Yes, Nancy? It is yes, it's many different states that are working together. Okay, ready? Okay, the answer is Iowa. And so I'll give you a point if you have Iowa. And Nancy Hill was the founding leader. So that's the bonus point. Nancy, how many states are involved in the ILO now? 5. And the latest one was Missouri, I believe. Okay, next question. After women won the right to vote, how did La Crosse newspaper ads persuade women to vote by saying they did not have to do what? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the answer is give their age. They just generally had to give their age. So I'm somewhere in that range. All right, number 3. What was the Lacrosse League's first public works money raising success? It's older than that. So this was in the 1920s. All right, ready? Public restrooms at the La Crosse County Fair. And they also provided, if you put this down instead, they provided a first aid station where you had to pay, I think, 8 cents for a Band-Aid. And they had a coat check too. But it was the lacrosse, the restrooms actually for women. I thought that was interesting. Okay, number 4. In the early years, the league served as both a service organization and a social outlet for many young women. What was provided by the league as an incentive to attend meetings? Wine would be a good incentive. Yes, I heard that. Okay, do you need more time? Think practical. Okay, here's the answer. Childcare. Yeah, they all had like 10. In the 1950s to the 1960s, the Lacrosse League raised funds by helping the Lacrosse School District conduct what mandated yearly task? Okay, everybody got something down? Child census. So they would go from door to door asking the questions, and for every child that they counted, they got 8 cents. Now it's all automated. So, okay, here's a long one. Lacrosse participated in a nationwide study that identified flood, silt, and water pollution problems that needed attention. This led to what president of the United States to authorize regional water studies that was the start of pollution awareness? So we're looking for the president. I know I didn't give you the year. That would be giving it away. I will give you a hint. It's before the George Bushes. Okay, got something down? All right, let's see. It is President Eisenhower. Okay, number 7. What longtime and present member chaired a study in the La Crosse River marsh that is still used today in the continuing efforts to conserve this important water source? And I tell you, she isn't here today. Okay. All right. I think this was an easy one. Maureen Kinney. Okay. What book compiled for a 75th anniversary by Margaret Larson won 2 awards? Organizational Award of Merit from the Wisconsin State Historical Society and the Tribute of Excellence from the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin. Just all right, and you get bonus points if you have the entire thing. For the Common Good, a history of women's roles in the La Crosse County from 1920 to 1980. If you have that entire title, then give yourself 2 points. All right, another person, Rosalie Schnick, longtime and current league member, presented at the first local celebration of Earth Day. Her event called attention to the fragility of our planet and the limited supply of resources. All right, this is an easy. What Wisconsin senator created the idea of Earth Day? We need more like him now. Okay, I don't think I have to give you much time on this one. Gaylord Nelson. All right, number 10. This is another easy one for you. 2 points for this one. Who was the first president of the La Crosse League? And who is the current president of our league? This is worth 2 points. Okay, so we have Alex Hiskson and Jane Powell. Okay, extra point on which one was the first? That's 2 points, yeah. All right, last question. Heritage Night was a popular Oktoberfest event. I really miss Heritage Night. I love that night. What did the La Crosse League famously sell at their booth? And the bonus on this is who made them? Well, it's a bonus question, so. Okay. Cream Puffs. And it was Dia Olson. And Ron. Okay. All right. Yay. Okay. So count up your scores. Any table have 15. 15 points. Yeah. If with all the bonus points and everything, it would have been 15. Okay. 14. 15, 13. 11 or 12. I missed 12. 12? Whoa. Wow. Okay. Anyone else have 11? 10 or 11? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, the problem is the fabulous prize is for the common good, which you wrote it. And you probably have 100 in your basement. So anyway, you have our extreme gratitude and you're held in esteem, all of you for being part of the league and for being such a support for the league. Let's see. Okay, I wanted, yes, that's it. And the books are available for anyone who would like one. I would really, really encourage you to pick one up. We used your book as a source of a lot of the questions. And even though it is not about the league, it's about lacrosse women and all of the struggles that they went through. And it's just an excellent source. It's something that you can read a chapter or just a little segment and put it down, come back a month later and find something else in it. It's an excellent book. I also just want to say thank you and express my gratitude to Kathy Mulliner and Barb Roberts and Margie Hansen and Margaret Larson, of course, for digging up all of this history. We are going to be doing something with it. We're going to be putting it on the website. And so that history won't be lost to us because that's important for us to know that. Now, we are going to transition from our history to the present and to our future right now. Jane?
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Good job. And then, Mary, the clicker is. All right. Good job. Thank you to the cast and crew of our skit this evening. Rhonda, what wonderful job, everybody. Love all those costumes. So we are going to talk a little bit now about this evening, about the work that the League has been doing this past year. And I've skipped ahead one slide, so I'm giving you a preview of what we're going to be talking about. Maybe I'll just have you do that for me. Will you change the slides for me? Okay. All right. I think back about the minutes or the year that has been. I am very grateful for the support of so many strong leaders at each level of our committees. And so many of you are here this evening. And this history that we've been learning about the last couple of months is very inspiring to all of us. And so I feel that we really have a strong lead to encourage other people to join. And as people join, I feel that there's so much to offer. And so we're going to talk about some things tonight. The other thing I was thinking about is trying to organize my thoughts. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Rent. There's a song about 525,600 minutes. How many moments in a year? I think about so many moments this year. So to organize my thoughts, I was talking to my brother who's from the world of business, and he was talking about action and momentum. And so I just want to point out a few things in some of the committee work that's been going on that I don't think friction, see it as negative, it's just maybe have to be smoothed out a little bit to increase momentum. The first thing I wanted to talk about, programs. You know, for 3 years we've had COVID and we've been on Zoom for a lot of meetings. And when we wanted to get started again to have in-person meetings this year, we had a lot of work to do to understand how to get things organized, where to do it. We had a lot of new people on the committee, some older people, or not older, but people that had been doing it before. But we really had a mix of people on the committee, and there was a lot of things to work through. We had different venues the first couple of months. And so each program, though, as we completed it, this group is good about understanding how to work, and they knew that we needed to organize and talk about things that had happened and evaluate our work. So that happened and processes developed. And so things have gotten easier, more organized, smoother to run these meetings. We've had really good attendance at our meetings this year. We've had new members join because they've seen us in person and understand the importance of what we're doing. So I give a big hand to the program committee for the important work that they've done and the great programs that they've produced this year. I want to also point out, A couple of the programs too that were, we had, most of our programs were here, but a couple of the unique programs, one was the webinar in February. There's a new system in our state league. It's called PIES for short, and I can't remember all the words, but it's an interleague program committee that looks at issues that are of interest, and that it encourages leagues to co-chair, co-sponsor certain topics. And so we did a program on environmental justice, and that was co-supported by 14 different leagues across the state. We had over 100 in attendance for that, and there is a recording on our website for that. Robin Schmidt was instrumental in contacting the speakers, and it was an eye-opener on what the phrase even means, as far as I'm concerned. I had never heard the whole complexity of that issue. So that was well attended. The other thing that really very wonderful this spring was when there was a West Salem community member who sent us an email and said, could you help us organize a candidate debate? And so I didn't do much except forward that email to Leslie Wagner of the program committee. Leslie had previously done the groundwork of setting up a system or a call of doing a committee debate. And so she had already done when called upon. So I sent it to Leslie, and within 2 weeks, she was able to pull off, and with help of Mary Nugent, Nora, Catherine Kolkmeyer, they held a very excellent professional debate with West Salem School District that was seen by over 400 people. Now, yeah, that was very good and very important. And Leslie is here tonight. I don't know how many of you know Leslie. She's going to come up and talk. The feedback that she got after that debate was so significant, and she's got some information that I think is valuable to share.
Can everybody hear me? Thank you for that nice introduction, Jane. And, seeing this first meeting reenactment kind of made me think about what issues we'll be facing League 100 years from now, 50 years from now, 10 years from now. And it makes me think about how our candidate forums fit into League's mission to defend democracy. And what are we defending democracy from? A recent cover story in the Atlantic magazine, it was in an article excerpted from an upcoming book by journalist Ann Applebaum, caught my eye when I was thinking about these questions. She points out that we are living in a time where the immune system of once healthy democratic societies is compromised, where what she calls a dollop of common sense has trouble resisting the contagion of idiocy. Further, she points out that in our country, there's a sizable constituency that wants Americans to believe that their democracy is degenerate, their elections illegitimate, and their civilization dying. The point of such efforts is not really to mobilize support for a candidate or an issue, but to numb the brains and neutralize the agency of citizens everywhere. As Anne writes, if you don't know what happened, you're not likely to join a great movement for democracy or to listen when anyone speaks about positive political change. Instead, you are not going to participate in any politics at all. She suggests that the problem is a culture that even thinks to take deeply misinformed people seriously. Governments alone cannot solve this problem. Individual citizens have to take the initiative, gently but persistently, as exhausting as it might be. These efforts can sometimes have a positive effect, at least in the short term. So her analysis struck a chord with me based on my admittedly not vast experience of having organized 2 league candidate forums so far. But it seems to me that based on the feedback that I've gotten afterwards, that our forums are able to do more than inform voters and provide some context for evaluating candidates on their ballot. The way we conduct our forums is a powerful example of how a healthy democracy should operate, with respectful exchange of ideas and viewpoints, with civil public discourse, thoughtful questions by an engaged public, and guided by standards of fairness, integrity, and consistency. People who are fatigued by politics need to be reminded of what our democracy can look like, despite what they may be seeing online or in the news. So I included a report tonight, but this is also about recruitment. I invite you to get involved in the work of defending democracy. We have sign-up sheets here if you're interested in the work of any of our groups, and we need you. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Leslie. You did a great job holding the mic, too. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the communications. Now, we've already, at our table, critiqued the communications a little bit. And my thinking about friction and momentum with the communications group is that this group is a little different. There's not a lot of friction slowing them down. This is a group of well-oiled machine people that work with details. They're experts in production. Our website is packed full of news articles, legislative updates, videos, resources for voters on upcoming elections and registration, how to do it, when to get your absentee ballot. If you need to tell somebody about finding out about their voting status, have them go to our website. The social media group and marketing group is very creative, and they work with, this year they've started a whole campaign with the Cooley Region Women's Magazine. Also, we had a full year of advertisement in the La Crosse Chamber Chorale Bulletin, and we expect to do that some this fall too, because of the big election in November, and it's a different audience sometimes than what we might reach otherwise. So I invite you to take advantage of this website, be informed so that you can inform others. If you are part of a group outside of the league, possibly suggest that the league be a speaker at one of your events. We were invited to talk to Eagle Crest South. They have a tea for two, or tea at 2 once a month. And one of the gals that we know that's election worker invited us to come over. And it was very well attended. There was a lot of good questions, conversation. And so we can do that. There's a lot of us that have a lot of experience that could talk with a group. Let's see. The only friction that I can see with this group is if they don't know something. It might slow them down a little bit. But as Nora was saying, she searches out the answers. She figures it out. She researches, and they figure out what to do. They call on other people. They do use the resources of our state league. We're all members of the state league, you know, and we've got a communications woman down there that can work with them. And they have some monthly tech meetings and stuff. So there's resources at the state level that we can take advantage of. So I really appreciate this group, and they do amplify and spread our message in many ways. Then the next one is the voter services, of course. Everybody thinks about voter services when they think about the league. The first thing usually your contact is because you needed to register to vote or has somebody, you know, get registered, and so you turn to the league. I'm not going to repeat everything that the league does because it's too much. Their report is thorough and good, and there's a lot of statistics, right, Chris? And so if you go any place in the community with Chris Haskell, she will be known. Everybody knows Chris. She's a great conduit to partner with people in the community from all different different groups, and I can't thank her enough for her mentorship for me this year. One of the projects that this group took on was a partnership with the DMV. This was in Dane County last year. The league partnered with the DMV because at every DMV in the state, there's a kiosk or a computer screen, and it's hooked up directly to the myvote.wi.org so that people can register to vote. If they're at the DMV and they've just changed their address, updated their driver's license. And so Chris and some from the Voters Services Committee thoughtfully worked together, Anita and Rhonda, and they developed a program for our league to participate with the DMV, which we did before the April election. And the shifts to be working out there got filled up with members right away. And we, as I understand, it was 35 people that we know registered to vote while we were there. Now that doesn't seem like a huge number, but there was a lot more people that we talked to. And so it's an awareness thing for the community to know that that is available. We intend to be there again, but it's another new project to reach people that we might not reach for the whole area. I mean, people are there from all over the region, and we are the lacrosse area league, so it's nice to have an outreach in that way. The other important impressive thing, I hear the other state leagues talking about their work with the high schools, but I don't think any of them are any more prolific than ours. We've been in 8 high schools this spring. We go in the spring because that's when most of the seniors that are going to turn 18 are 18. So we do a history of voting, and we talk about some of the way back history. We go way back, like one of the guys in the video says, to the founding of our country, Civil War, and how they, only as of 1972, did 18-year-olds have the right to vote. And that their generation made a difference during the Vietnam War to get that right. And that they, too, have an impact on our democracy if they choose to vote. And then we have them register right there while we're at the high schools with them. So that's an important program that continues on. We were just at Sparta this week. Michael has connections there, and we were able to go do a new program at that school. We've been as far as Necedah, and then of course we do the local schools. We have contacts at all the colleges. We table at all the colleges. Our table tents with our QR codes and my vote information is at particularly at Western and Viterbo. Voter turnout's going up. In November of 22, UWL had the highest voter turnout in the 2 wards around the college of any place in the city. I won't go into the consequences of that. No, I mean, it was good. It was good. The numbers were interesting when you looked at the canvassing numbers online, and we all learned a lot from it as far as the way that they clean up the polls. There's certain years when they delete names from polls if you haven't voted for 4 years, and so people get eliminated from the voting rolls, or if they've moved or something. And there's a lot of mobility with the college students, so there's a lot of re-registering of college students that needs to happen. It's all legal, it's all legitimate, it has been challenged, but we continue to support the student right to vote. So are we at 100% voting? No, we're not there. And we're always looking for more opportunities to meet with the public and to increase the voter turnout. So if anybody has new ideas, we're always interested to listen. But we are, we're out there in the community. We table so many community programs, and people say, oh, you're here again. We see you everywhere. So we like that. We really like that. I'll tell you a little story here, and then I'll stop talking. Barb Roberts and I tabled at the MLK, Martin Luther King program at Viterbo in January. And so that night, we table in the lobby. there was a man that came by, and he had recently moved to La Crosse, and he wanted to update his voting record, his voting, so he could vote, because he'd been here for a few months, but he didn't know how to do it. And then he saw the league, and he'd been in Milwaukee, and he voted there, so he knew the league was maybe a place to get his, registration done. So he did. He came and sat down with us. He was in a hurry because his driver was going to leave, and he didn't have a lot of time. And he didn't have his driver's license with him, but he knew his driver's license number. How many of us have our license number memorized? And so we sat down and we went through the steps online. And, you go to the MyVote site, and then you have to go over to the DMV site, and then you have to go back to the MyVote site. It's about a 20-step procedure. And then we asked for the confirmation to be emailed to him, and it all got all done. And he said, "Great. Oh, that's great." And he took off. So that was in January. So Saturday, some of us were tabling up at the Omni Center at the Hmong American Day. And after that was over, I came down through Onalaska. I stopped at the mall at a store. And at the store I went into, there was a man leaning against the counter. And he looked at me, and he had a name tag on it, said Harold. And he was an employee. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I thought, I wonder if he knows me from something. And he came over and he said, "You're the voting lady at MLK." And so we shook hands and talked a little bit. And I said, "Well, did you vote in April?" And he says, "I sure did." And so I think he's going to be an example, an example to his friends and stuff, and to vote. And I think that's momentum. So these personal contacts, like I said at the UU church last week, they're making a donation to us from their congregation, and they asked me to talk, and I said, we hand out hundreds of these MyVote cards. But every time we hand one out, there was probably a conversation with it. We probably talked to somebody. We probably answered a question or steered them in the right direction to talk to their clerk or something. And so everything that we do makes a difference. And we need to do it as much as we can all summer, right up to November. So if anybody wants to participate in any way, we have clipboards, contact any of us. Just spend a half an hour at the website and be informed so that you can tell other people about things. I think one of the things that I'm really encouraging people to understand about is these constitutional amendments that are going to be on the August and the November election. Don't get into the polling spot and not understand what you're voting there, and make sure that you tell everybody that you know to do their research before they vote. I think that's going to be a very important part of the election. Now, this work, of course, doesn't happen without all of the people here. And so the next slide that I gave you the sneak preview of is our board of directors, and I would like those people to stand, please. Yeah. Thank you. So thank you very much. I appreciate the thoughtful conversations and the support from each person in the board this year. I'd also then like to show the next slide here. This is some of our standing committees as well as our other important committees that work so hard. Vote 411, Observer Corps, we have the book club, and then our the forums. So the people that are leading those groups, could you please stand? Jan Gallagher, Deborah Luchin, Leslie you've talked with. Karen Kroll is kind of symbolic of the book club tonight. Maureen's not here, but Karen does a lot of the work with that. Chris, okay, thank you very much. So, and of course, and Nora, we've got a strong group of leaders, and those that work with them understand that. I'm sure you appreciate their leadership. Another organization that we are part of that we've already been quizzed on tonight. Oh no, we're going to let's see, did we have I had a slide for the river. Okay, let's go to the next slide because we're giving previews away. When I think about all the hours that people work, it's great. And then I think of all the years that people have served. And so we are lucky tonight to be able to to welcome Margaret Larson and Barbara Frank as new 50-year members. So if they want to get a nice round of applause, thank you so much. That's nice. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. 50 years is a long time to be sticking with us all here. And I know that they've done many accomplishments, and I'm not going to go through them all now, but I do think that some of them are on the slides and things. Margaret joined in 1974, and Barbara joined in 1973, so she's actually 51 years, but because we weren't in person and stuff, we just kind of, it went by. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make? My husband and I moved to La Crosse. Right there. How's that? Thank you. My husband and I moved to La Crosse in 1977. I joined a league in Muscatine, Iowa, where we lived before. And the very first phone call I made when we got to La Crosse was to the League of Women Voters, because I knew that's where I was going to find people doing the things that I was interested in doing. And that's what I always tell people. That's your best new connection. That is a great piece of advice when we move around and young people. I appreciate that. Let's give Barbara a chance here.
Well, I told you it's been a good ride. I joined, I was always a political junkie, interested in especially environment, education, a lot of social programs of all kinds. You name it, I was there. But the thing about the League is it's an excellent vehicle for whatever your cause is. It supports you. And as Margaret said, these are wonderful people. They're just, great friends. And I look around now and I see all these young faces. And that's exciting because, we old guard are passing on through at this point. And it's just very encouraging to see how many of you are here and caring about the things that we cared about and will carry on the good work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been looking forward to that for several months. Okay, the next slide is now just a recognition of our interleague organization, Upper Mississippi River Region again. At this time, Carolyn Malum Jenkins is a board member and she is a member of our league. Their annual meeting is May 29th. They're going to show the video of Visit with Will Dilg. Some of us saw that at the Pump House. It's really a good film. And so if you're able to get online and participate in that, I encourage you to do that. All right, so the next slide, please. We need people for everything we do, but we also need financial resources. And so we are going to be doing some voting very soon, but before we do that, I wanted to take the time now to give a sincere thanks to Roz Schnick, who was not able to be with us this evening, for her generous donation to kick off our Founders Fund campaign. And also Barbara Frank for her support. I also thank all of you here that have donated. We are going to party and celebrate this some more in September at the Capella Center. But for now, just know that it has been very gracious and surprising how much support we have received. I think I said to Sheila, if I would have ever thought I was sitting in this chair when this was happening, I would never, if somebody told me that, I'd never believe it. So anyway, That's the next person I want to thank is Sheila. Sheila, stand up. Sheila. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Maureen's not here. Maureen, who's been so dedicated to this, is off in Bali with Pam Thiel hiking. So, but those two gals have been so fun to work with and kind and supportive, and they have such good insight and leadership. And their heart is always with the league. And so I feel very much like we're very well supported with their work. Let's see. Now I think I'm going to turn this over to Catherine. Catherine Kolkmeyer was our treasurer this past year, and she's passed the reins on to someone else, but she's such a good person at Robert's Rules. Actually, she ran the Robert's Rules last June when the state league had their meeting here. She ran the meeting. So I'm passing this off to her.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce that someone else in just a moment. It's on my chin, folks. Can you hear me? It's on here. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we have a few items that we need to elect or do some voting here. And so you've all received a packet in the mail, in your email. So if you looked in your bulletin that arrived a month ago, you received a packet that had all of the items that we're voting on this evening. They're also available at the front desk and on your tables. So we will go through these one at a time, and as a group, we'll be electing our officers. We'll be voting on some of the items of business. We're going to begin with the 2023 annual meeting minutes. So the minutes from last year's meeting. I hope you had a chance to have a look at those. Could I please have a motion to approve the minutes from the 2023 annual meeting? Thank you, Deborah. Can I have a second, please? Second, thank you. Is there any discussion or any changes that need to be made? Kim did that. Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So we've adopted the minutes from last meeting. Our next item is looking at this year's budget. So Jane pointed out that I was the treasurer this year. I took over just shortly before the annual meeting last year. And she said, hand it off to someone else. I'd like to introduce that someone else. That would be my friend Pam Squires. Say hi, Pam. This year was particularly challenging for me, and at the end I needed somebody to help and to take that role over, and I'm so very grateful to Pam for stepping in when she did. But together we have put together some better bookkeeping operations, and I think it's going to really help with where we go from here. And Pam created this beautiful budget. This looks a little different from what you received a month ago, because that was something that we were still creating in QuickBooks. It is more detailed. What you received a month ago is more detailed because it's broken out by committee. So if you're interested in the details of any of these numbers, that's where you will find them. If they're in a particular committee, you want to talk to that committee chair. If you have a question about a particular number, we can do that. But what we have on the left then is the fiscal 24 budget. That's fiscal 24 is the year that we are in now. It goes through June 30th. And then the actual financials of where we are as of the 12th of May. So income at the top, expenses at the bottom, shows you what our budget was for the year and where we ended up. Notice that last year's budget was a deficit budget. We did that on purpose. What a deficit budget means is that we intended to spend more than we brought in because we had cash on hand. And so that's why it was negative. We also did not intend to, at the time anyway, to do a Founders Fund campaign. And so because we did do that and it was very successful and it continues to be successful, we ended up almost $60,000 ahead of the budget that we had anticipated. This puts us in a really strong position to go into the next year. So if you're wondering why those numbers are where they are, that's one of those reasons. What we're going to vote, excuse me? Yes, I'm sorry. We do have copies. Yeah, so Jane has copies, Pam has copies, there are copies on your table, there's copies at the front table. Yes, if anybody'd like to see it right now, just raise your hand and Pam will bring you one. Margaret would like one. So what we're voting on this evening then, the one on the left tells you where we are. The one on the right is the fiscal 25 budget. This is the budget that takes effect July 1st of this year. It is also a deficit budget, and the reason for that is that we are going in with so much cash as a result of the campaign. We don't need to continue to raise more than we are going to spend, and that's the only reason that that is a deficit budget. It includes, again, revenue at the top, expenses on the bottom end. You'll notice a number of items are crossed out. The reason for that is that in cleaning up the bookkeeping, we managed to consolidate some of the categories for funding. And so a number of these items were eliminated to try to simplify things. So again, you can get more detail on the QuickBooks version that we sent out a month ago, but we're anticipating bringing in $32,415. Our expenditures are anticipated to be $51,679 for a difference of $19,264 deficit budget. So if everybody has a copy and has a chance to look at that, could I get a motion to accept the proposed fiscal 2025 budget, please? Betty Kruk, thank you, Betty. Could I have a second, please? Second, Leslie, thank you, Leslie Wagner. Is there any discussion or any questions for anyone on this? We can do the best we can. Hearing no questions, no discussion. All in favor of accepting the 2025 budget, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you, the budget passes. Thank you, Pam, for your work on that. The next item is the 2024-25 proposed program priorities, try to say that fast, of the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area. These are the areas of interest for our programs in the coming year. Jane, did you want to discuss any of these? You don't have to, but you
I really didn't change anything. I did change fair maps to redistricting because of, you may be talking about the significance of redistricting versus fair maps, since we should have more fair maps now. And then I think I added something about immigration status.
So these are the items that are of interest to this, to our local league in the coming year. This will be the basis of the programs that we put together for Lunch and Learns and other events. And so we just need to have a vote on approving this slate of topics. So could I have a motion to approve this list, please? Ellen Prince, please. And a second. Margaret Wood, thank you. Are there any questions or discussion? So for those online, Jane said if you have any ideas that you'd like to add to the list, please email that in. Okay, without any further discussion then, all in favor of the proposed programs, whoops, it disappeared. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, now we can go to the next one. The final one is our election of our board members. And so there's 3 sections for this. I'll do them all at once. You may know that in our bylaws, it indicates that we have 4 officers, and we elect 2 officers each meeting for a 2-year term. And so at this particular meeting, we are voting in our treasurer and our secretary. And you may be wondering how we're doing that when we did a secretary and treasurer last year. The reason is that Rhonda Atkinson and I were secretary and treasurer in a 1-year term. Last year, we were appointed to fill a term that is ending now. And when I say now, I mean at the end of this meeting, our new officers take effect. So I mean now. So the officers that we are electing for a 2-year term this evening would be our treasurer, Pam Squires, and secretary, continuing Rhonda Atkinson. As a result of that, we also have 3 board members who are going to be elected for a 2-year term, and those are Nora Garland, Sally King, and myself. In addition, we have a nominating committee for 2025. Jan Gallagher is our chair, Sheila Garrity and Maureen Kinney. And these 3, as well as Jane and myself, were part of the nominating committee this year. So I want to thank our nominating committee for the work of putting this list together. But this is our slate of officers and directors and nominating committee for 2025, but starting tonight. So could I have a motion to accept the slate as presented? Nancy Hill, thank you. Could I have a second? Thank you, Anita. Are there any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Then we are, I'm getting a bump on my chin from holding this thing on me. Are those all our votes? I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. That's the business meeting.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. All right, so thank you all for coming. A few dates to remember. The next thing coming up, June 10th, is the book club. They're going to be talking Lessons from the Edge from Maria Yovanovitch, the Ukrainian ambassador. And so that meets at Gail Schneider's residence, One River Place. And so if you're interested in participating that, it's nice to register just in case they had a last minute change in their programming. Otherwise, you can just show up if you like. And then the ice cream social that it's going to be 3rd year in a row. So we're going to call this an annual event. Will be August 18th. Sally King, our new co-chair with our membership committee, she and Robin will be organizing that. And then, of course, Wednesday, September 17th, we're going to be at the Capella Center over on King Street. Oh, September 18th. And David Mark, whose mother, Jean Mark, as I understand, started the Lunch and Learn program when League membership was kind of low. She started that program, and it's been such a successful addition to the League's work. So anyway, David is in town, and he's going to be a pianist for us that evening. We're also going to be kicking off some special information and promotional work that the Voter Services has been doing for their Get Out the Vote campaign. So it'll be a fun evening, and we're hoping that as many of you can come as possible. I think you'll be able to bring some guests to that. There'll be some invitations sent out. So thank you for coming. Does anybody have any other thing for the good of the order? Sally? Oh, yes, Sally, come up. Thank you.
Just want to point out that we've made a directory for people, a hard copy. So there's a bunch on the table over there. So if you'd like one, it has League emails and phone numbers. And so you have that. And I'd also like to put a plug in to ask people to go on the website under their name, their profile, and give us some information. And if you're savvy enough, stick your picture in there. I think it would be really nice. And I know Martha sends that newsletter out bi-monthly. And she's asked me to have people share a bio so that we can get to know each other. So if you haven't done that, please go to the website and do that for us. Thank you.
And in addition to paper things, there are some books there Margaret brought tonight, and I don't think she wants to carry them back home, right? So if you don't have one of Margaret's books.
Jean Mark, Signa Schrader, and Rachel Gunderson are the godmothers of this book project. And then there was an editorial board of 5. And the only person left from that group is Anita Evans, who created the index so that the book is actually useful. Yeah. And there were hundreds of volunteers involved in collecting this information. And then it was up to me to pull it together. So it was the League's book.
So the League's book, so take a book, and that Anita, that she's librarian in her blood, right? So she organizes everything. That's great. There's also about 5 copies I printed out some copies of the annual meeting. So if somebody hasn't seen that on their computer, or they just want to have a paper copy, help yourself over there to that. All right, so thank you for coming. Thank you for everything you do. And if people ask you tonight, what did you guys talk about? And if you don't remember anything else, just tell them, everyone vote. That's what we talked about. Everyone vote, okay? Thank you. Good evening.